Hello and welcome to India Business Hour. I'm Shireen Bhan. The headlines that we're tracking for you this evening. Liquidity set to dry up across foreign currency derivatives traded on stock exchanges. An RBI directive set to take effect from the 5th of April only allows for trades to hedge forex exposure. Panic across trading desks as many expect volumes to plummet 80 to 90%. The Indian rupee ends at a record low of 83.43 against the dollar. The sensex and the nifty end flat, but the mid-cap index hits a record high, gaining for the 8th straight session, the longest winning streak in the last 4 months. At least 7 people dead and more than 700 injured after a 7.4 magnitude earthquake jolts Taiwan. Dozens feared trapped under debris in what is the strongest quake in 25 years. Japan and Philippines lift the tsunami warnings issued in the aftermath of the quake. 59 Palestinians killed in Israeli strikes in the last 24 hours in Gaza, according to the Hamas-run health ministry. U.S. President Biden calls on Israel to conduct a swift investigation into the death of 7 aid workers in Gaza. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu faces a 4th night of protests as clashes erupt outside his residence. Tesla will send a team to India this month to scout locations for a $3 to $4 billion manufacturing plant, according to a Financial Times report. Additionally, sources tell CNBC TV18 Tesla executives are in close touch with the Indian government. Tata Motors and Vietnam's VinFast are also exploring an application under the new electric vehicle manufacturing policy. Private equity giant Blackstone betting big on India. President Jonathan Gray says India is the 3rd most important market for the company after the US and UK, plans to ramp up investments in companies that make in India. The CEO of Vistara holds a meeting with disgruntled pilots over their compensation, asks them to return to work, promises to address concerns about new contracts through one-on-one meetings. Around 20 Vistara flights cancelled today compared to 50 yesterday. Zee Entertainment's managing director Puneet Goenka takes a 20% pay cut as the company undertakes cost-cutting measures after the merger with Sony fell through. A CNBC TV18 analysis shows Goenka's compensation grew more than 4-fold over the last 5 years, while Zee Entertainment's profit declined by 96% and revenue was only 2% in the same period. Rahul Gandhi files his nomination papers from Wayanad, holds a roadshow flanked by his sister Priyanka Vadra and senior Congress leaders. Rahul Gandhi won the seat by a margin of over 4 lakh votes in 2019. Wayanad stares at a 3-way contest among the Congress, the CPI and the BJP. The Delhi High Court reserves its order on Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal's bail plea in the liquor policy case. Kejriwal's lawyer argued that the case is an attempt to disintegrate the Aam Aadmi Party ahead of elections. The ED argues that it cannot stop arresting suspects because elections are around the corner. 200 Indians in the Forbes list of billionaires, including 25 newcomers. Louis Vuitton's Bernard Arnault retains his position as the richest in the world. India's Mukesh Ambani, the only Asian in the top 10. Pop icon Taylor Swift enters the Billionaires Club. Well, we'll get to the Billionaires Index in just a bit, but let's start with the market action of the day. The Sensex and the Nifty ending flat after a range-bound session, but there was no stopping the mid-cap party. The mid-cap index hitting a record high in trade after gaining for 8 straight sessions. This is the longest winning streak that we've seen in 4 months. So that's the mid-cap index up by about 0.5%. The rest of the market closing absolutely flat. Let's talk about the dollar rupee in the currency market. The rupee ending at a record low. The Indian currency lost about 5 paise, ending at 83.43 against the US dollar. But the big story that we continue to track here on CNBC TV18, India's forex derivatives market is in a tight spot. Liquidity is expected to dry up across foreign currency derivatives, which are traded on the stock exchanges. And this is because of an RBI directive, which is set to take effect from the 5th of April, which only allows for trades to hedge forex exposure. The change has sparked panic across trading desks as many expect volumes to plummet 80 to 90%. Prashant is here to explain the rationale behind the move and the implications. Prashant, take us through what market participants are saying about the RBI directive and why.
Well, this is an important story now, which is implications for the currency derivatives trading involving the rupee as it happens on Indian exchanges right now. Remember, currency derivative trading happens on the NSE, it happens on the BSE, it also happens on the Metropolitan Stock Exchange. So what's the issue that we have at hand right now? The RBI, in a circular in early January this year, that is 2024, said that exchanges have to inform users that they have to, that's the clients, the users have to establish the existence of, and I quote, a valid underlying contracted exposure, which has been not hedged using any other derivatives contract, if required. Now, in simple words, the RBI is basically disallowed currency derivative trading with rupee involved on exchanges without an underlying position. So if you're not hedging a position, currency derivative trading involving the rupee would basically be violative of FEMA rules. FEMA, of course, is the Foreign Exchange Management Act. This, of course, all of this goes into effect from the 5th of April, that is this Friday. So it's imminent, it's happening now. Though the RBI notification is dated, I mean, it's a few months old, its actual full import only began sinking amongst brokers, amongst market participants recently. Brokers associations like ANMI, CPAI reached out to regulators seeking a clarification. The RBI, in an email last week to market participants, clarified on the issue, basically saying that there is no change. They actually said that we had clarified on the issue back in 2014, and this is, in a way, a reiteration of that. Exchanges, by the way, earlier this Monday, earlier this week, also kind of attached that circular from the RBI and sent it to market participants as well. So it would seem like the issue is settled, right? Market participants do believe that this will essentially, for all practical purposes, kill the exchange-traded currency derivative market. Daily average notional turnover for this segment runs into, a few billions of dollars a day. Many are predicting between 70 to 90% fall in these volumes as this rule kicks in. We at CNBC TV 18 have reached out to the RBI for clarification, but we are yet to hear from the Reserve Bank of India.
Prashant, many thanks for joining us. In fact, staying with this story, trading platform Zerodha has advised its clients to close currency derivative positions before the 5th of April to comply with the RBI rules. Zerodha's Nitin Kamath saying regulatory risk is the biggest risk for stockbrokers and added that the move means the death of currency derivative trading on stock exchanges by retail traders. Take a look at other reactions.
In exchange-traded markets, at least, you cannot have only underlying exposures being traded because there are no banks as market makers or designated market makers. It's a free market. It's supposed to be a free market, and markets are supposed to set the price. And you will need traders and speculators in a market if you want to create a free market. So it's very, very unfortunate. I beg to differ that the OTC market should be on par with exchange-traded markets.
The reality is, there is an onshore derivatives market, exchange traded, and there is an OTC market. You really can't have different rules. And if needs to be changed, then that would require more of a policy decision than the regulatory decision. So that's where my thought process is. But I'm surprised, even after the 5th Jan circular, it just restarted it again in last week or so.
Well, this is going to be a developing story that we will continue to track closely. Senior fund manager Shoini Andani has quit SBI Mutual Fund after a 17-year stint. Andani managed the country's second biggest large-cap fund, the SBI Blue Chip and SBI Magnum Mid-Cap Fund, with total assets under management worth nearly 60,000 crore rupees. Andani joined SBI Mutual Fund in 2007 as the head of research, was appointed as fund manager in 2010. Bharti Hexacom's IPO has opened for subscription with a subdued response. The retail category was booked 48%. The QIB category subscribed 29% on day one. This is the first IPO of the new fiscal year and also the first from the Bharti Group in more than a decade. The company aims to raise 4,257 crore rupees through the issue. The expected valuation of the company is likely to be around 28,500 crore rupees. The World Bank has upgraded India's growth forecast to 7.5% for the last fiscal. This is marginally higher than the Reserve Bank's projection of 7.3% for FY24. However, the World Bank has estimated growth to moderate to 6.6% in FY25. The World Bank has said that India will continue to see robust growth in services and industry sectors aided by strong construction and real estate activity. However, it points out that India needs to adopt policies to spur private investment to make growth more resilient. In global news, at least 7 people have died and more than 700 have been injured after a 7.4 magnitude earthquake jolted Taiwan. Dozens feared trapped under debris in what has been the strongest quake in the region in the last 25 years. Japan and Philippines have lifted the tsunami warnings issued in the aftermath of the quake.
It was shaking very violently. All the motorcycles outside our house toppled over. So I quickly switched off the gas and the electrical source and opened the main door.
Well, massive earthquake there in Taiwan. 59 Palestinians have been killed in Israeli strikes in the last 24 hours in Gaza, according to the Hamas-run Health Ministry. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu facing a 4th night of protests as clashes erupted outside of his residence. US President Biden has called on Israel to conduct a swift investigation into the death of 7 aid workers in Gaza. The incident has sparked global condemnation. The deceased include citizens from the US, UK and Australia.
We were outraged to learn of an IDF strike that killed a number of civilian humanitarian workers yesterday from the World Central Kitchen, which has been relentless in working to get food to those who are hungry in Gaza and, quite frankly, around the world. We send our deepest condolences to their families and loved ones. We've seen the comments from Prime Minister Netanyahu and from the Israeli Defense Forces about their commitment to conduct an investigation. We hope that those findings will be made public and that there is appropriate accountability held.
American auto giant Tesla will send a team to India this month to scout for locations for a $3 to $4 billion manufacturing plant. This as per a Financial Times report. Separately, sources tell CNBC TV18 that Tesla executives are in close touch with the Indian government. And Tata Motors and Vietnam's VinFast are also exploring an application under the new electric vehicle manufacturing policy. Parikshit is standing by now with more details. Parikshit, the possibility of Tesla scouting for locations in India and setting up a plant in India now have been buzzing for months. Where are we in that process?
Well, in the last few months, there have been very close negotiations between the Indian government and Tesla. We believe that there are positive indications coming in, and sources in the government are very confident that Tesla is going to avail of this policy. In fact, we pick up from sources that it could be less than a month when Tesla could actually indicate and give clarity on its India plans. This policy, of course, allows a company to import a certain number of vehicles, approximately 8,000, at a concessional duty rate of 15% instead of 100% currently, in return for making an investment commitment. Not just Tesla, you have Vietnam's electric vehicle maker VinFast, which has already entered India. They are ready to explore this policy. You have JSW and MG Motor, which are looking at it very closely, and Tata Motors. Interestingly, Tata Motors was one of the companies which was opposed to any duty concessions to Tesla. But now that Tesla would be coming in, or most probably will come in as a result of this policy, there is competition, and we believe that Tata Motors is also exploring this policy very closely. They are trying to understand more from the government. They are exploring whether they can avail of duty concessions to bring high-end JLR electric vehicles into India in the next 3 years or so. So a lot of interest in this policy, according to sources in the government, but we will have to wait for those commercial announcements to be made by the companies.
All right, Parikshit, yes, we are waiting. Many thanks for joining us. Private equity giant Blackstone betting big on India. Blackstone's president Jonathan Gray says India is the 3rd most important market for the company after the US and UK. Currently in India, Gray says Blackstone is planning to ramp up investments in companies that make in India.
India is actually quite important to our firm. It's our biggest investment market in Asia. And when you look at our equity investing across our firm, first is the United States, no surprise. Second, United Kingdom. India's 3rd when it comes to equity investing for us. So it's very important for our private equity business, for our real estate business. Over time, we hope to expand, hopefully into infrastructure, growth equity, maybe private credit over time. But this is a market that served us very well. We'll continue to expand really in the areas we have been over time. Part of that will come from growth in the companies we're already invested in. But in terms of where we'll deploy capital, I think a lot of it will be in companies in the made from India category, which is India exporting out to the rest of the world, something we've done a lot of. We did that with an EV parts manufacturer business called Sona Comstar. A lot of it will come from IT services. We've done a lot of that exporting to the rest of the world. And then I'd say made for India.
Well, Blackstone's India plans there. Aditya Birla Group-owned Ultratech Cement has planned to invest 32,400 crore rupees for capital expenditure over the next 3 years. It's also announced that it will be commissioning 2 new projects in Chhattisgarh and Tamil Nadu, bringing its total capacity to more than 150 metric tons per annum. Vistara CEO Vinod Khanna held meetings with disgruntled pilots over their compensation issues. Sources say the airline has been forced to cancel over 100 flights in the last 3 days as pilots went on mass sick leave in protest against the new salary contracts. Close to 20 flights were cancelled today as opposed to the 50 yesterday. Danish is standing by now with the details. Danish, take us to what transpired at that meeting with the Vistara CEO, and were any assurances made?
After over 100 cancellations in the last 2 days, Vistara has cancelled approximately 20 flights today. And in a bid to reach out to the upset pilots, Vistara CEO Vinod Khanna addressed the pilots in a meeting and urged those on leave to return to work. And the junior pilots highlighted the concerns about the new payment contract, which reduced their minimum flying allowance to guaranteed pay for 40 hours instead of 70 hours earlier. Khanna told the pilots that concerns around contracts will be taken up through one-on-one meetings. But moreover, the other issue is around the rostering concerns, with many pilots saying that they are being stretched into flying 70 hours a month. To this point, the management acknowledged that some pilots are being fully optimized and said that they would try to resolve all rostering concerns by May, and the immediate focus is on bringing back the flight operations to normal. And this important meeting took place after the Aviation Ministry sought a report from Vistara on the mass flight cancellation and what Vistara was doing in order to normalize its operations.
Danish, many thanks for joining us. Zee Entertainment's Managing Director Puneet Goenka has taken a 20% pay cut as the company has undertaken cost-cutting measures after its merger with Sony fell through. Now, CNBC TV18 analysis shows that Goenka's compensation actually grew more than fourfold over the last 5 years, while Zee Entertainment's profit fell by 96% and revenue grew by measly 2% in the same period. Yash is standing by with the analysis. Yash, much ado about this pay cut?
Puneet Goenka, the MD and CEO of Zee Entertainment, took about 35 crore rupees as total salary and variable pay in FY23, a cut of about 20% in the payout to MD and CEO as indicated by Zee Entertainment means a saving of about 7 crore rupees for Zee Entertainment shareholders. Though this amount of 7 crore or 20% pay cut isn't insignificant for the shareholders, but if you look at the compensation number for Puneet Goenka over the previous 5 years, that number has grown at a much faster pace as compared to the company's growth itself. Look at the revenue numbers for Zee Entertainment in the previous 5 years. In FY19, the company's revenue that stood at about 7,933 crore rupees, which has just grown at about 2% to come to about 8,087 crore rupees in FY23. Look at the profitability numbers. The profits for the company in FY19 stood at 1,567 crore rupees, which has reduced all the way to just 47.8 crore rupees in FY23, which means an erosion of 96% when it comes to the profits for the company. Now compare these two sets of numbers with the compensation paid to Puneet Goenka as the MD and CEO of the company. Puneet Goenka's compensation in FY19 was at about 8.3 crore rupees. That has zoomed all the way to about 35 crore rupees in FY23, which means an increase of as much as 323% in the compensation itself. So almost a no change when it comes to revenue for Zee Entertainment in the previous 5 years, a decline in profitability for the company, and a sharp hike in payout when it comes to the managing director and CEO does temper the optimism which really came from the positive news of pay cut to Puneet Goenka.
Yash, many thanks. In court corner, BJP leader Subramaniam Swamy has moved the Delhi High Court against the deal between Axis Bank and Max Life Insurance. Filing a PIL, Swamy alleges the delay by market regulator SEBI in probing the matter. Axis Bank argued that the PIL is non-maintainable, citing the 3 regulators, including the CCI, SEBI and IRDAI, are looking into the matter. Max Finance admitted that SEBI seized of the transaction in question and that the PIL cannot second-guess the market regulator. Moving on now, the Bengaluru bench of the National Company Law Tribunal has issued a split verdict on a plea filed by investors against the Byju's rights issue. A third judge is likely to be appointed to finalize the orders after the two-judge bench arrived at differing views. Investors hold 32% stake in the embattled edtech startup and are seeking a stay on the rights issue. More court news. The Delhi High Court has dismissed a plea seeking directives to the centre to ensure that travel companies don't share personal information of customers. The division bench has asked the petitioner to approach the government. Remember, the plea raised concerns about the potential misuse of data, including passport and Aadhaar details, by travel companies. Up next on India Business Hour, 200 Indians in the Forbes list of billionaires, including 25 newcomers. That and more when we return. And you can catch all of CNBC TV 18's news and updates on Facebook, X, Threads, Instagram and JioCinema. The big political story, Congress leader Rahul Gandhi has filed his nomination papers from Kerala's Wayanad today. The constituency goes to polls in phase 2 on the 26th of April. As sitting MP, Gandhi won the 2019 Lok Sabha contest, defeating his closest rival from the CPI by over 4 lakh votes. This time, the stage is set for a three-way battle, with the BJP entering the fray as well. Gandhi conducted a roadshow ahead of filing his nomination. He was accompanied by his sister Priyanka and senior Congress leaders. Wayanad CPI candidate Annie Raja also filed a nomination. Kerala's Chief Minister Vijayan had earlier hit out at Gandhi for putting up his candidature against the left. The BJP has nominated State President K. Surendran as its candidate. Gandhi also addressed his constituency, saying he doesn't treat it as an electorate, but like his family.
Like we do from all families, I have received love and affection. I have learned so much from my brothers, my sisters. It has been an honor for me to be your member of parliament. I don't treat you and think of you like an electorate. I treat you and think of you the same way I think of my little sister Priyanka over here.
Rahul Gandhi there. The Delhi High Court has reserved its order on Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal's bail plea. In the liquor policy case, Kejriwal's lawyer argued that the case is an attempt to disintegrate the Aam Aadmi Party ahead of elections. The ED argued that it cannot stop arresting suspects merely as elections are around the corner. The arrest of Delhi's Chief Minister weeks ahead of the elections has prompted opposition parties to allege that central agencies are acting at the ruling party's behest. The former Chief Election Commissioner S.Y. Qureshi told us that there have been precedents of the EC asking the ED to maintain a level playing field to ensure free and fair elections. Qureshi also shared an anecdote when he reached out to the late Manohar Parrikar, then the Chief Minister of Goa, with a suggestion ahead of the assembly elections. Take a look.
Manohar Parrikar's case, in fact, that's a very beautiful case to cite, because when we heard that he is going to induct the candidate, it was a by-election, that he was going to induct the cabinet, that candidate into his cabinet, which would have given that candidate an undue advantage, because a minister surely is likely to get more votes. We sent him an advisory, and he called me up the next morning very angrily, saying that this is his constitutional right. I said, surely it is your constitutional right. We are not questioning that. You can appoint anybody in the Council of Ministers anytime. However, there is a model code, and if you see respect its sanctity, if you can defer it by the 2 weeks, 3 weeks, that will be nice. And I'm so respectful, I salute him, that he not only accepted the advice, he came out with a great statement.
Well, that's the former Chief Election Commissioner. Now, there are more billionaires in the world than ever before. This is as per the Forbes annual rich list. The world has 2,781 billionaires with a collective net worth of $14.2 trillion. That's $2 trillion more than 2023. Kiran is here with the highlights of the Forbes rich list.
The top 5 names on the list remain largely consistent. LVMH CEO Bernard Arnault is the world's richest with a fortune of $233 billion. He's followed by Tesla CEO Elon Musk, Amazon founder Jeff Bezos, and Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg. Women account for just over 13% of the world's billionaires. L'Oreal heiress Francois Bettencourt Myers is the richest female billionaire, followed by Walmart founder's daughter Alice Walton. 200 Indians feature on the list, and their combined net worth is just $50 billion short of $1 trillion. Of these, 2 Indians feature among the top 20 richest. Reliance Industries chairman Mukesh Ambani with a net worth of $116 billion and Adani Group chairman Gautam Adani with $84 billion. Ambani is also the only Asian to have entered the $100 billion club. Other notable names include HCL Group Shiv Nadar and Jindal Group Savitri Jindal and family with a net worth of over $30 billion each. 25 Indians made a debut on the list, including Medanta's Naresh Trehan and Keynes Technologies' Ramesh Kunikannan. Both their company stocks have had a good run since their listing in November 2022. Renuka Jagtiani, the CEO of Landmark Group, is also among the newcomers. AI is emerging as a big wealth driver for the billionaires on the Forbes list. NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang features among the world's 20 richest people for the first time, given that the stock rose nearly 300% in the past year. Super Microcomputers co-founders and husband-wife duo Charles Liang and Sarah Lu have become billionaires as the stock is up more than 10-fold in the past year. The company makes servers for generative AI apps. OpenAI's Sam Altman, the man behind ChatGPT, is also a newly minted billionaire. Last but not least, there's some news for Taylor Swift fans as well. The pop star has made it to the 3 Club thanks to the success of her Eras tour, which raked in $1 billion in revenue.
Well, that is the Forbes billionaire list. 200 Indians making their way to the list as well. With that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of India Business Hour. But before we go, look out for the CNBC TV 18 India Exchange starting 5:30 p.m. tomorrow, where market experts, industry leaders come together for discussion on the road ahead for the economy and our markets. We will start by mapping the macros with Citi India's economist Samiran Chakrabarti, followed by a jugalbandi between market veterans Manish Chokhani and Ramdev Agarwal. Post that, we discuss the return of the animal spirits, a conversation with B. Vaidyanathan of IDFC First Bank, Keki Mistry and Manish Kejriwal of Kedara Capital. And finally, we chase alpha with market experts Nilesh Shah, Prashant Khemka and Anish Tavakale. So tune in to CNBC TV 18 starting 5:30 p.m. tomorrow for the India Exchange. From all of us here for now, goodbye and thanks very much for watching.